السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Welcome everyone. I want to thank all of you for coming today for tonight's presentation. I would like to ask all the sisters if they can start making their way through my office and then to the brother side, inshallah. We'll begin our program shortly, inshallah. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Once again, thank you all for coming. I would like to ask all the kids if they can please come on up and sit up front. So if you're a first grader, second grader, third grader, come on, let's sit up here. Kids, come on, we can sit up front. Inshallah. So then you want to sit over here too? You want to sit over here? Kindergarteners, first graders, second graders, third graders, fourth graders, and fifth graders. And if you want, if adults want to come, they can come too.
You're kindergarten.
They're not obliged to. Okay, so today's program, inshallah, if I can get everyone to settle down. Today's program, inshallah, we are very fortunate to have Brother Amin Aaser here. He's coming from Minnesota. And alhamdulillah, he gave the khutbah today. He'll be here speaking tonight on two different programs. So before Maghrib, inshallah, we'll have a program called The Power of Prayer. And this is a program designed for children, inshallah. So his main target, his audience will be the children. And after Maghrib, inshallah, we'll continue with our khutbah topic, which was building a strong Muslim identity. So inshallah, after the prayer, we have a parent and family program open for everyone. That is after Maghrib, but right now, inshallah, before Maghrib, we have a children's program. Before, I would like to ask Brother Amin to come on up and begin his presentation. I would like to begin tonight's program with a short Quran recitation. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد آتينا لقمان الحكمة أن اشكر لله ومن يشكر فإنما يشكر لنفسه ومن كفر فإن الله غني حميد. وإذ قال لقمان لابنه وهو يعظه يا بني لا تشرك بالله إن الشرك لظلم عظيم. ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه حملته أمه وهنا على وهن وفصاله في عامين أن اشكر لي ولوالديك إلي المصير. وإن جاهداك على أن تشرك بما ليس لك به علم فلا تطعهما وصاحبهما في الدنيا معروفا واتبع سبيل من أناب إلي ثم وإلي مرجعكم فأنبئكم بما كنتم تعملون يا بني إنها إن تك مثقال حبة من خردل فتكون في صخرة أو في السماوات أو في الأرض يأت بها الله إن الله لطيف خبير يا بني أقم الصلاة وأمر بالمعروف وانه عن المنكر واصبر على ما أصابك إن ذلك من عزم الأمور ولا تصعر خدك للناس ولا تمش في الأرض مرحا إن الله لا يحب كل مختال فخور صدق الله العظيم. I would like everyone to please join me in welcoming Brother Amin.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. Wasallama tasliman kathira. I'm 7 years old. I'm standing in my mom's bedroom looking at the mirror chewing. I'm like, it is the yummiest. It is the juiciest, sweetest, most mouth-wateringest chewing gum I had tried in my entire life. And I take that chewing gum and I tiptoe over to my mom's dresser. I stand on my tippy toes. I open up the drawer. I look to the left. I look to the right. And right as I'm about to put the chewing gum inside, my mom walks into the room. She looks at me. She says, Amin, did you take that chewing gum from the grocery store? I look at my mom and I gulp just like this. I'm like, I look at her straight in the eyes and I say, no. But here's the thing. On that day when my mom asked me if I had taken that chewing gum and I said no, do you know what I had done? No. I lied, but I have to tell you the whole story, okay? So earlier that day, I was sitting on my couch, I was reading a book, and I was like, oh man, this is so much fun. But my mom comes and says, Amin, we have to go to the grocery store. Now, I didn't care about eggs or milk or cheese or any of those things. I just wanted to stay home. Does that ever happen to you guys? Yeah. So when we got to the grocery store, I was walking around just like this. I was like, oh man, I really wish I wasn't here. Oh man, I really wish I was at home. Oh man, I really wish I wasn't here. But then, out of the corner of my eyes, I saw it. It was purple. And it was pink, and it was blue, and when I grabbed it and I put it into my hands, it said, Bubblicious. It was the yummiest. It was the juiciest, sweetest, most mouth-wateringest chewing gum I had seen in my life. You guys, it was dripping in watermelon sweetness. That's not funny. So I took the chewing gum, and I put it against my chest, and I started thinking about all the places I could chew it. I was like, oh man, I could chew this on the slide at my school. I could chew this on the couch while I'm reading a book. I could chew this in the back seat of my mom's van, and I know what you guys are thinking. You guys are thinking, Amin, if you love this chewing gum so much, I mean, if you really love the chewing gums, if you love it so much, well then why don't you just marry it? So then I married the chewing gum. No, I'm kidding. No. I have the chewing gum in my hands and my mom comes and she says, Amin, what do you have? I say, Mommy, this is bubblicious. Mommy, it's sweet, it's juicy. I need it, I want it. And before I can even finish, my mom says, N-O, yeah. Do your parents ever say that to you sometimes?
No!
My mom said, Amin, we have so many chewing gums. Why could you possibly need another one? But I said, no, Mommy, this one's sweet, it's juicy, Mommy, it's bubblicious, please. But by the time I looked up, my mom was already gone. She had gone to the cash register. So I took that chewing gum and I tiptoed back to where I found it. I stood on my tippy toes, and right before I put it back, I looked to the left, I looked to the right, and then I did something. Unlike anything I had ever done in my entire life. I took that chewing gum, I opened up my pocket, and I dropped it in. And I forgot all about it. Until my mom caught me, and when she did, I started crying my eyes, and I was like, Mommy, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was doing, Mom. I'm only 7 years older. I'm too young to go to jail. And you know what my mom did? She sent me to jail. No, I'm kidding. My mom did not send me to jail, but on that day, my mom told me a story, and that story is a story I will never forget. Now today, I'm going to tell you two stories. One story is one that I have written myself, but another story is one that many of you may have heard before, and if you've heard it, I'll ask for your help. It's about a boy who cried wolf. Okay? All right, so once upon a time there was a boy who lived at the top of a mountain all by himself. Everybody else, they lived at the bottom of the mountain. Now this boy living at the top of the mountain would start to feel lonely, and he'd start to think to himself, maybe there's a way I can get everyone from the bottom of the mountain to come to the top. So the little boy goes to the top of the mountain and he screams at the top of his lungs. He goes, wolf, wolf, there's a wolf. And everyone from the bottom of the mountain, they come running to the top and they say, where's the wolf, where's the wolf? But the boy just laughs. He's like, I got you, there's no wolf. But the people get upset. They say, boy, if there's no wolf, don't cry wolf.
I know that.
And they go back down.
I know that.
Now the day goes on, and the little boy at the top of the mountain starts to feel lonely again. So he decides to go to the top of the mountain, and he screams again at the top of his lungs. He goes, wolf, wolf, there's a wolf! And everyone from the bottom of the mountain, they come running to the top. They say, where's the wolf, where's the wolf? And this time the boy slaps his knees. He's like, ha, 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 ha. I gotcha, there's no wolf. But the people get upset. They say, boy, if there's no wolf, don't cry wolf. And they go back down. But now the day has passed. The sun sets behind the mountains and the moon shines like a lamp in the night sky. And the little boy is sleeping in his bed. He's like, but then he hears something. He hears something from outside of his window, so he gets up and out of his window, and he tiptoes over to the window. He stands on his tippy toes, he opens up the blinds, and there's a wolf. So the boy goes to the top of the mountain, and he screams at the top of his lungs. He goes, wolf, wolf, there's a wolf! And everyone from the bottom of the mountain stays there. The boy looks on. He sees that one by one, each and every single sheep is being taken by the wolves. The boy says, I've got to do something. I've got to do something. So he goes to the top of the mountain again and he screams at the top of his lungs. He goes, wolf, wolf, there's a wolf. And everyone from the bottom of the mountain stays there. By the end of the night, each and every single sheep has been taken by the wolves. The next morning, an old man from the bottom of the mountain comes to the top and he sees the boy. But this time the boy isn't laughing. This time the boy isn't giggling. No, this time the boy is crying. He's like, last night there was a wolf that came in, and the wolf took all of the sheep. Because that's what you guys sound like when you cry and talk at the same time, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, anyways, back to the story. The little boy was crying, and an old man came, and he put his arm around the boy, and he said, boy, today I want you to learn a very important message. And the boy said, what's that? And the old man looks at him straight in the eyes and he says, nobody believes a liar, even when he tells the truth. And then my mom closes the book and she looks at me and she says, Amin, did you get it? And I said, yeah, Mom, I get it. She said, what did you get? I said, nobody believes a liar, even when he tells the truth. Now that day, I made a terrible mistake. I did something that I never should have done, and I got in trouble for it. I got grounded. You guys know what it means to be grounded?
Yeah.
Being grounded means you can't even leave the house. I got grounded for so long. In fact, I'm still grounded today. No, I'm kidding. I'm not grounded anymore. But that day, I learned my lesson, and I learned my lesson through reading. Do any of you guys love to read? Yes? Okay, let's go over here. What is your name? Inaya. And Inaya, why do you love to read?
The story teaches me lessons to stop doing when something wrong.
Inaya said, when I read, I learn. MashaAllah. Who else loves to read? Yes. What is your name over here? Sarah. And Sarah, why do you love to read? Because she learns new things. Who else loves to read? Yes. What's your name? Abdul. And why do you love to read?
Because I get to see new characters.
Yeah, because it's fun. Okay, one of the reasons why I love to read is because of empathy. You guys, I want you to say that after me. Empathy.
Empathy.
One more time. Empathy.
Empathy.
One last time. Empathy.
Empathy.
Empathy means when you stand in someone else's shoes. When you read, it's like you're standing in someone else's shoes, looking at the world from where they look at that world. Like when I told you the story of the boy who cried wolf, it's like we were standing in his shoes looking at the world from where he was looking at. One of the reasons why I love to read is because it makes you imagine, it puts you in an entirely different world. But most of all, I love to read because of what Sarah and what Inaya said. When you read, you learn. Has anyone ever read the Quran?
Yes.
Does anyone know what the first words that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ever gave to us human beings in the Quran ever was? The first words ever, yes. Yes, and what does that mean? Read. Reading is so important that the first words that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us is He tells us to read in the name of your Lord. Now these days, I don't just like to read books, I write books too. Has anyone ever heard of Noor Kids?
Yes.
You have? Alhamdulillah. So I am the author of these books. I actually write these books. And today, and I'll just tell you a little bit about them. So we've written over 40 books. What? Books like Hidden Treasure and Nearest and Dearest and Squeaky Clean and Right versus Wrong. And when you sign up, you get like a little passport where you're able to collect badges from each book. And you've got your badge with you, mashallah. Now, of all of the books that we had ever written, today I'm going to read you my favorite story, okay? So a couple of years ago, my mom was really sick. And when my mom was really sick, everyone said, Amin, you should make dua for your mom. Amin, you should pray for your mom. But I was worried. How could I be sure, like 100% guaranteed or your money back sure, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could answer my each and every single prayer? So I wrote this book called The Power of Prayer. And today, every book has 2 stories. I'm going to be reading one story from the book, and it's called Call on Your Creator. Now, before I read you that story, I want to introduce you to the characters. So Noor Kids follows the story of Amin, Sheen, Asad, and Amira. They live in a city that's not so different than Binghamton. It's called Maple Grove. And they go to a school called Northport Elementary. So first there's Shireen. Shireen's 7 years old. She has a twin brother named Jaffer. Lots of times you'll see her with her camera because she wants to be just like her mom, who works for National Geographic. And there's Amin. Amin's a sports star. He loves baseball and soccer and tennis. He has an older brother in college named Hasib. And sometimes Amin does stuff without thinking about it, and because of that he gets into trouble. Then there's Asad. Asad's a scientist. He loves to break things apart just to figure out how to put them back together again. And he has a little baby sister named Yusra. And then there's Amira. Amira is an artist. She loves exploring all of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's beauty through art and poetry and painting. Now these 4 are the Noor Kids. Like I mentioned, I'm going to be reading out of this book called The Power of Prayer. Every book has 2 stories. I'm going to only read one story called Call on Your Creator. But before I start, I need you all to say Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dude, you guys, I came all the way from Minnesota to Binghamton, New York, because I heard that you guys have like a really loud Bismillah, okay? I need a bigger one. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Now, unfortunately, there were some of the dads that didn't say it. No, I'm kidding. All right, we'll get started. All right. It was the first soccer match. Okay, if you can move a little bit to the side over here. Thank you. All right. It was the first soccer match of the summer, and Amin wanted to score a goal more than anything. Give me the ball, says Amin. Amin began running as fast as he could. He needed to find the perfect spot before taking a shot. Got it, just need to dribble a bit further. Ouch, ouch, my ankle! While running, Amin tripped and twisted his ankle. He was hurt. His friends gathered around to help. The boys looked at Amin's red and swollen ankle with concern. This has to be the worst thing in the whole wide world. There's no way I can play for the rest of this season, says Amin. Can you guys see that? His ankle's so bruised. Is there anything we can do to help, asks Asad. No, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing anyone can do. This is just my luck. How miserable, says Amin. Well, Amin became depressed about his situation. Asad came up with an idea to cheer him up. Say, Amin, I know things are tough with the injury and all, but maybe you can help me finish a robot I've been working on? It will be fun, I promise. Amin agreed. The 2 walked towards Asad's house to begin working. Thanks, Asad, you're a real pal, you know that? Don't mention it, that is what friends are for. Once the 2 reached Asad's garage, they began working on the robot, designing its blueprint, welding its pieces, and programming its operations. Finally, Amin turned the robot on. Its eyes lit up and it began talking. Assalamu alaikum. I am Ali the android. Let me show you what I can do. I can jump up and down. I can zip all around. I can even fly towards the sky. But on the way down from his flight, the android made a mistake and fell down too fast. Ouch, ouch, my knees! Landing on his feet, the android's knees buckled. Ali was in pain. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the poor android is hurt. What should we do, asked Amin? We created him, right? That means we can fix him too, says Asad. Asad began repairing Ali the android, replacing the springs, installing new wires, and painting the metal. I feel better than ever, Aaser. Thanks for your care. After the android was fixed, Amin decided it was time for him to go home. But as he got up to walk, he felt pain in his ankle again. Oh man, with all of this fun, I forgot that I had twisted my ankle. I wish it could be healed, but there's absolutely no hope, says Amin. Hold on, Amin, there is hope. I have an idea. Maybe we can learn from Ali the android. Okay, guys, before we go on, a couple of questions. Have Amin and Ali the android gone through similar problems?
Yes.
Okay, raise your hand. All right, what happened to Amin? What happened to Amin?
She falls down like she goes inside, can't go down like.
Yeah, kind of. You guys, what happened to Amin? What happened to Amin? What happened to Amin? Amin sprained his ankle when he was playing soccer. Now, what happened to Ali the android? What happened to Ali the android? Yeah, he fell down too fast. And what happened when he fell down too fast? He hurt his knee, right? Now, who fixed Ali the android? Who fixed Ali the android? Yep, you. Oh, Asad, okay. So Asad the lion, he fixed Ali the android. And why was it that Asad the lion could fix Ali the android? Asad created Ali the android, and that means that Asad could fix Ali the android too. So who can Amin go to for help? Who do you think can fix Amin? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And why? Because Allah created Amin. Alright, so let's see what happens. Wow, what an incredible idea. I wish I would have thought about it sooner. I will call on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. Inshallah, through him I can get better. Amin left to go home. He was excited to pray for a quick recovery. Upon reaching home, Amin began preparing to talk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Quick question, have any of you guys ever heard of Barack Obama? Who is Barack Obama? He was like the president, right? Now, if you were going to go meet the president of the United States of America, how would you want to dress like Barack Obama? How would you want to dress if you went to go meet him? You'd want to dress nice, right? Like you'd wear like a dress, or you'd wear a suit and tie, right? And maybe you'd take a shower too, right? And maybe you'd wear some perfume too, because you want to smell good, right? Amin is not getting ready to meet Barack Obama. Amin is getting ready to speak with who? With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's see how he gets ready. Upon reaching home, Amin began preparing to talk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He put on clean white clothes to look his best. He performed wudu to clean his body and soul, and he dabbed on some ithr for a beautiful scent. So ithr is like perfume. Ithr is like perfume. So he dabbed on some perfume for a beautiful scent. Amin walked onto his prayer mat and raised his hands to the sky. Now, are any of you guys making dua for something that you really, really want? Like something that you really, really want from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Yeah? What are you making dua for right now? That she can meet her grandpa in paradise one day, mashallah. What are other duas that you guys might have right now that you're praying for? Yeah? Mashallah. And can you say that in English? Say that one more time. To go to Jordan, mashallah, to travel somewhere else, yeah. What's something that you are making dua for? To meet your grandma? Okay, anyone else making a dua for something that they really, 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 really want? To go to Jannah, mashallah, what else? For me and my family and everyone to go to Jannah? To finish the Quran? For an Xbox 360? No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. Okay, so here's the thing. And by the way, Xbox 360 is so old because I'm old, okay? It's an Xbox One now, I think. Alright, anyway. So, there's a recipe for how to make dua, right? There's a recipe for how to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for whatever we want, and Amin follows this recipe, okay? And this is a recipe that we can use whenever we want, and I'm going to share this recipe with you today, okay? So the first thing that we do is we put our hands together. Will you put your hands together with me? And we say, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Will you guys say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim? Okay, so now this is a dua that we can do to Allah at any time, anywhere, anytime we want to talk to Him, we can talk to Him. So one of the first things that we do is we thank Allah for all of our blessings, okay? So when I'm doing it, I'm going to say it in kind of a melodious kind of a voice, like I'm reciting it. You don't have to recite it, but this is one way to do it. So we say, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, oh my Lord, oh my Lord, oh my Lord. The first thing that we do is we thank Allah for our blessings. We say, Ya Allah, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for my mom and my dad. Thank you for my eyes, my ears, and my nose. Ya Allah, thank you for my home and my shelter. Ya Allah, you've given me so much. Ya Allah, thank you. Now, after we give thanks, we ask Allah to forgive any of our mistakes. So we say, Ya Allah, even though you've given me so much, I've made so many mistakes. For the times that I was shouting and yelling, Ya Allah, I never should have done that. Please forgive me. For the times that I was being mean to my brother and my sister, Ya Allah, I never should have done that. Ya Allah, please forgive me. Ya Allah, for that time when I took that chewing gum from the grocery store, I never should have done that. Ya Allah, please forgive me. And then we pray for other people who need our prayers. So we say, Ya Allah, the people who don't have a mom or a dad, Ya Allah, please help them. Ya Allah, the people who don't have a home, who don't have clothing, who don't have food, Ya Allah, help them. Ya Allah, for the people who are sick, Ya Allah, cure them. Ya Allah, I pray for my mom and my dad, just like they took care of me when I was a baby. Ya Allah, take care of them when they get older. Ya Allah, I pray for my grandma and my grandpa. So first we thank Allah. Then we ask Him to forgive our sins. Now we pray for the people who we love. And after that, our hearts have opened and we ask Allah for whatever we want. Whether that is to go to Jannah with our family, whether that is for someone to get healed, whether that is to memorize the Quran, whether that is for an Xbox One, it doesn't matter. This is a way that we can ask Allah whatever we want. So Amin's prayer is what? His foot is hurt. So he says, Ya Allah, please help heal my ankle. The very next day, as Amin woke up, he looked at his feet. While they still hurt a little bit, the redness had disappeared. Amin smiled and thanked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for answering his prayer. He was on his way to a quick and a speedy recovery. Will you guys give me a round of applause? Okay, so we're actually going to break for Salah very soon, but before we break for Salah, I need to ask you one very important question. So in this story, we learn that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, and because Allah created us, it means Allah can fix us too, right? So it's like Allah is our inventor. It's like Allah invented us. Now, every single invention has an instruction manual, right? Like, if you get like a cell phone comes with an instruction manual and it shows you how it works, right? If you get a watch, it comes with a little booklet, an instruction manual that shows you how it works. Even the projector, even the lights, every single invention, when you get it, it comes with an instruction manual that shows you how it works. If Allah invented us, did He give us an instruction manual? Because every single invention has an instruction manual. A car does, a watch does, even Nur Kids, when you get Nur Kids, it has an instruction manual that shows you how it works. If Allah invented us, shouldn't He have given us an instruction manual? Raise your hand. Did He give us one? Yes, who knows what it is? What is it? The Quran, inshallah, takbir. Allahu Akbar. Takbir. Allah. So I am the author of Nur Kids. So what that means is in this book, okay, every sentence, every letter, every period, every detail was written by somebody like me, right? And that's the case with every single book. When you go to the library and look at any book, every book was written by someone like me, but this book is a special one. Because the Quran is one that was not written by someone like me. No, these words, these sentences, these chapters don't come from any human. No, they come from our Creator. And that's why today I wanted to share with you that as an author, as somebody who likes to write books, the book that I love the most and the book that I care the most about is this one, because it was created by our Creator. Now, I want to thank you guys so much for your time. Before we dismiss, because it is time for Maghrib, I want to share just two quick things. The first thing is for the parents. Alhamdulillah, my name is Amin Aaser. I'm the executive director of Your Kids. It's an organization we started at Harvard University about 6 years ago. And our goal is to help build confident Muslim children. We do that through research, and inshallah, after Maghrib, we're going to do a program for everyone who can stay, but it's primarily for parents, which will be sharing some of this research as we did during Jumu'ah this morning. But number two, we also do this through Islamic learning material like this book. Every month, we actually produce a brand new book and send it to people's homes through a curriculum. So we have a curriculum of 36 topics. Alhamdulillah, our work is now in about 25,000 homes across the US and Canada, and it's created by a team of 14 people. Today we have some of the books here, and we're actually doing a really great deal. Basically, if you do a 4-month membership, that means you get a book every month for 4 months. The total is about $30, but when you do that, today we'll be giving you a box of 4 books for free as a gift as well. So it's like 8 books for $30. Otherwise, if you wanted to do it for a year, it's $6.99 a month for 12 months, so the total is about $80. And again, you'll get the 4 books for free as a gift. We exist because of support from families like you. If this is something that you believe your family would enjoy and benefit from, please do consider getting this to support our efforts and also support your families as well. With that, I'm going to give it to Sheikh to prepare us for Salah, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum. Let's give Brother Amin one more round of applause. Okay. So inshallah, we'll break for Salah. Immediately after Salah, within 5 minutes, we will resume our program, inshallah, right? So everyone is also welcome and encouraged to come back. Sisters can pray on the sister side, and they can come back afterwards. And kids, inshallah, you guys will also pray with us, right? Everyone? Are you guys going to pray with us? Everyone say yes. Yes. Okay, good job, inshallah. So we'll see you after Salah, inshallah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
لا إله إلا الله. استقيموا واعتدلوا. Please straighten your rows. Make sure your heels are on the line. Please follow the gaps. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ألهاكم التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر كلا سوف تعلمون ثم كلا سوف تعلمون كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم ثم لترونها عين اليقين ثم لتسألن يومئذ عن النعيم. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. building a strong Muslim identity. If I can get everyone to, inshallah, please settle down and sit down, inshallah. We'll begin our program in a couple of minutes. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Quick change in programming. I'm sorry for this. A lot of parents want to buy books and leave. So what we'll do is for the next 15 minutes or so, we'll let the sisters come on up and buy some books and the brothers as well. After 15 minutes, inshallah, then we'll begin our second program. So for 15 minutes, inshallah, you can socialize, you can talk, enjoy. There is pizza downstairs for all my kids here. Right? All the kids. You guys want pizza? Yes? Okay. So there's pizza downstairs if you guys want to go eat. You can go eat. Yes, it's for free. But that word is really bad word. Okay, inshallah. So sisters, if you like to come up and make a
So I wanted to just make a quick announcement. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. Okay, so I just wanted to share exactly how this works. So first, we only have about 20 bundles. So inshallah, if you're interested, please listen. The way it works is you can either do a 4-month membership or a 12-month membership. A 4-month membership means that you get a new book in the mail every month for 4 months. A 12-month membership means that you get a new book in the mail every month for 12 months. Now if you do either of them today, we'll give you an extra 4 books for free as a gift. Now the way that you do this is on your cell phone. So on your cell phone, you go to our website, that's NOORKIDS, so noorkids.com/ICNA. So noorkids.com/ICNA. When you click on that link, noorkids.com/ICNA, you're able to scroll down and pick either 4 months or 12 months. Now you have to put in your information because again it gets shipped to you every month. And once you complete it, let us know and we'll give you the package, inshallah. And if you have any other questions, just come by and I'll be happy to answer them, inshallah. next event.
We'll begin our second program, inshallah.
Get down.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. I know we were supposed to start immediately after Maghrib. For that, I apologize. I know a lot of parents wanted to buy the different books. Okay, inshallah. So we'll begin the second part of our program, which is mostly geared toward families and parents, in which he will talk about what he talked about during the Jum'ah khutbah, and that is to build a strong Muslim identity amongst our children, inshallah. So without further ado, I would like all of you to please join me in welcoming Brother Amin back to the stage.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. So the year was 2007. Andrew Mason was 24 years old and he lived in Chicago, Illinois. He was angry because he had just gone to the Sprint store and he was trying to get out of his cell phone contract. And he was angry and he was upset because Sprint said there was no way that he would be able to get out of his cell phone contract. And anyone who's been in a cell phone contract can appreciate this. And so when he left, he thought to himself, the reason why Sprint can take advantage of me is because I am alone. If I had a group of people with me, I'd be able to influence them more than if I were by myself. Andrew Mason used this idea to end up creating a company that many of us may have heard of before called Groupon. Okay? So Groupon is a company in which you're able to go there, use the power of people to get good deals. And so at just 24, 25 years old, immediately successful, mashallah. His company is valued a lot of money, and he decides that it's time for me to go public. But at that time, there was an advisor at Harvard University, which is where I studied, who said, Andrew, don't do it. Andrew, don't go public, because there's issues in the foundation of your company. There's cracks in the foundation of your company, and if you don't fix them, I'm worried that everything will come tumbling down. And Andrew said, well, what's that? He said, the issue is that there's no switching costs, meaning if somebody uses Groupon, they could very easily use any other company, and if they use that, then your business will be failed. There will be so many competitors. Andrew said, hey, you know what, it doesn't matter, I'm 27 years old, I'm going to go full speed ahead. He decides to go full speed ahead. It turned out this professor was right. Within a matter of 2 years, they had over 300 competitors. Groupon lost a lot of its value. Andrew Mason ended up getting fired from his company. And Groupon, while it still exists today, is no longer what it used to be. So why am I telling you this story? Well, the reason I'm telling you this story is because, mashallah, Sheikh said that there's a lot of Indian and Pakistani people in this community, and I know people like getting good deals, so I figured I'd talk about Groupon. No, I'm kidding. That's not why I'm telling you this story. The reason why I'm telling you this story is because there was a crack in the foundation of Groupon. And because of a crack in that foundation, the company ended up falling apart. What we know is that family is the foundation of our lives. And as every year passes, we build another layer onto this big building that we're developing, which is our life. But if there is a crack in the foundation, if there's an issue in the foundation of our homes, it provides an unstable foundation that at some point can create conflict and create issue. And so during Jummah today, one of the things I shared towards the end is I said, the single most important variable that impacts our children, the single most important variable that impacts our child's understanding of who they are, is actually their mom and dad. So the next logical question that a mom and dad should be asking themselves is, okay, so what can I do? What can I do as a mom or a dad, or what can I do as a parent to help ensure that these kids are growing up in a positive and supportive environment? And so today, inshallah, I am going to be sharing 4 very practical strategies that are supported not just through the secular research, but also supported through our tradition as Muslims. And in doing so, inshallah, these strategies are ones that we can incorporate immediately to help ensure that we're building a strong foundation in our homes. So the first piece has to do with intention. When I was 27 years old, I had just finished taking the exam to go to graduate school, and my mom, she comes to me and she says, Amin, it's time for me to have a grandchild. Now, of course, this was a problem because I wasn't actually married at the time, okay? And so I thought to myself, okay, mom, inshallah, I will work on it. And so, I created like an Excel spreadsheet of all of the different things I was looking for in a spouse, and started looking on this journey to find a spouse. And finally I found, mashallah, my wife today, Sana. And I remember one day at Jummah, I went to one of my teachers and I said, mashallah, man, I'm getting married, I'm excited. And my teacher looked at me and says, oh, mashallah, how do you know that she's the right one? I said, oh man, I made an Excel spreadsheet. She's definitely the right one. And he said, huh? And he said, Amin, let me ask you a question. I said, what's that? He said, Amin, why are you getting married in the first place? I said, look, man, I'm 26 years old. My mom says she wants grandchildren. This is the next logical step. I mean, this is just what you do. And he said, no, Amin, I want you to really think about this. Why is it that you're getting married? Now, at the University of Alabama, there was a husband and wife couple named Nick and Nancy Steinat. They did a longitudinal study, meaning for 40 years, they were able to investigate 15,000 married couples. For 40 years, they looked at 15,000 married couples to try to identify what are some of the characteristics among those families that were successful and those families that were not successful. And one of the things that they discovered 6 different characteristics, but among them, one of them had to deal with God. They discovered that when a husband and wife came together around religion, didn't matter if they're Christian or Jewish or Muslim, it didn't matter. They said, but when they came together around religion, there was an intention, a niyyah, associated with this decision around marriage. Those marriages ended up being more successful than the marriages that did not include God as a part of them. Now, of course, we as Muslims know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that I have not created jinn and mankind except to worship me, right? So it's not to say that, so of course the way that we understand this is anything that we do for the sake of Allah, like if I work for the sake of Allah, or if I get married for the sake of Allah, this is in turn a form of worship. So one of the first things that we extract is this idea of niyyah, intention. And the intentionality around not only why we got married, but also why we had children. Now just think about this very objectively. If there are 2 couples, one couple that got married that said, look, by getting married, I am completing half of my deen. By getting married, this spouse is going to support me in this world and the hereafter. This spouse is my support on earth to get closer to God. One couple that gets married for this reason, the other one that gets married because this is just what you do when you're 26 years old. Everyone else in the community is doing it. I need to do this before I have children, something like this. Now when these couples each experience challenge, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promises us, when somebody unfortunately gets sick, when somebody unfortunately loses their job, when somebody unfortunately experiences a calamity, will both of these couples respond in the same way? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. When a couple decides to have children and says, I'm having children, why? Because these children are my legacy on earth. These children are my sadaqah jariyah on earth. When a family decides to have children for this reason and this intention, this niyyah, compared to another couple that decides to have children, why? Because that's just what you do at 26 years old. Mom and dad are asking for grandchildren, so that's what I have to do. When that child wakes up in the middle of the night and is crying and screaming and has a diaper that explodes, okay, everyone has been there. But when this happens, will both couples respond in the same way? Absolutely not. The intention, the niyyah, right, is the starting point around how we build these strong families. To remember, right, that these children of mine, this spouse of mine, it's not just for play, it's not just for society because this is what we do. It literally is a way for me to worship my Creator, to achieve perfection, to live my best life. So now, practically speaking, how do we establish this intention? Because mashallah, I see a lot of people in the audience saying, oh man, I didn't do that. No, I'm kidding, astaghfirullah. I'm sure people had good intentions, but how do we do this? Right? One way that we do this is actually through salah and prayer. Right? So one thing that we know is that ideally, it is best, the best course of action is to perform salat in jama'at at the masjid. If we can attend the masjid, alhamdulillah, amazing. But if, for example, we don't have the opportunity to attend the masjid for whatever reason, maybe it's Fajr, it's, we live far away, something like this, one thing that we can do as a family is actually perform salah in jama'ah at home. Right? This is one thing. The second thing that we know from the Quran is actually through dua, through prayer. Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, he says in the Quran, he prays. He says, رَبِّ اجْعَلْنِي مُقِيمُ الصَّلَاةِ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي. He says, Ya Allah, allow me to establish my prayers along with my progeny. Think about this for a moment, even the word choice. He doesn't say allow me to establish my prayer and my kids. No, he's thinking long term. He's saying not just my kids, my progeny. My progeny. Why? Because this child of mine is my legacy on earth. 100 years from now, 500 years from now, 1,000 years from now, it's through this child of mine immediately that allows for my future from now until the day of judgment. Right? So this idea of making dua, of prayer, is a second key practical strategy that we know. And when we make prayer, one of the role models that we can take is that of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he says, not just praying for my kids, but praying for my progeny on earth. And imagine for a moment what impact that has on you. When you make that dua and you internalize, Ya Allah, allow me and my progeny to establish prayer. Again, when I look at this child, I'm not just looking at the next 6 years or 12 years, I'm looking at my generations to come. It allows us to reestablish and reaffirm and remind ourselves of how important this is. Now finally, the third thing that we know is actually through communication. So communication, anyone who, mashallah, here who has any type of job, whether that be as an accountant, whether that be as a business person or business owner, whether that be as a doctor, no matter what it is, generally speaking, any rational human being will actually create a plan. Perhaps at the beginning of the year, they'll say, this is my plan for the year. Perhaps they'll say, this is my plan for the next 5 years. Right? This is what I'd like to achieve with my business. This is what I'd like to achieve with my practice, with medicine, or so on and so forth. Unfortunately, though, oftentimes in our families, we expect this type of communication and long-term thinking to happen with respect to work, but we don't actually allow ourselves to think, contemplate, and engage in these types of conversations at home. Right? So when I used to work, every year we'd create objectives for ourselves to say, what are our objectives for the year? Right? This is what I want to accomplish. And what we know through the literature is that families who engage in communication around what their goals are families that end up being more successful. Right? When a husband or a wife says, these are my goals for the year for the family. I'd like us to go for Hajj. I'd like us to go for Umrah. I'd like us to do XYZ thing. I'd like for us to think about the memorization of the Quran. I'd like us to do so on and so forth. Just that simple act of at the beginning of the year to be able to have both husband and wife be on the same page and communicate is absolutely a best practice that we can take with respect to this idea of intention. So the first thing I mentioned was intention. When we were at Berkeley, there was a professor who asked a very provocative question. I mentioned this during the Jummah khutbah. And she asked this question, what was the purpose of childhood? She said, what is the purpose of childhood? Childhood is defined as this period in time when an individual isn't able to add value. Normally that ends at about 8 or 9 years old, because at 8 or 9, that's when an individual can actually add value. Right? They can start taking care of themselves. Back in the day, they could start farming, so on and so forth. And so she wanted to understand, well, what is it, why is it that this period of childhood is so long? And so what she discovered is during these first 8 or 9 years that our brain is actually growing in its mass, in its size. And so then she double-clicked on it to say, okay, well, what is it that contributes to some people having more cognitive functionality, having bigger brains, and some people having smaller brains or less cognitive functionality? And what she discovered is that it had to do with play. Children who played more tended to have bigger brains or more cognitive functionality than children who played less. And again, this makes sense because when a child feels like, oh my goodness, like let me go do this, I turn on the light switch, I turn off the light switch, now I've learned how the light works. Through play, I learn. So why is it that some children feel so compelled to play, but other children feel like they cannot? This actually has to do with love. When a child feels loved, that child in turn feels confident, and because they feel confident, now they feel like, man, I can jump from here to there, I can do whatever I want because my mom and dad love me. I have this strong, supportive foundation. Now this, of course, is absolutely supported by the sunnah of our Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be on him. Right? And one of the ways that we see this is the way in which he interacted with his own children, and especially his grandchildren, Hassan and Hussein. So for example, there's one tradition where our Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be on him, is doing sujood as he is leading Salat al-Jama'ah. And at one point, he starts extending his sujood. He starts extending it, extending it, extending it, extending it, extending it. And then when he finally finished the prayer, the companions come to him and they said, what happened? Why were you in sajda for so long? And he said, well, you know what? My grandchild was on my back. And when he was on my back, I was worried that if I came up, he might have fallen or he might have gotten hurt. So I thought, let me just prolong my sajda such that my grandchild doesn't get hurt. In another narration, our Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be on him, is delivering a khutbah. And again, imagine, Jummah khutbah, okay? Imam is giving a speech, and a child from the back falls, just trips, falls. What does our Holy Prophet do? He stops the khutbah. He goes, picks up this child, he holds this child, he caresses this child, he loves this child. In another tradition, the tradition of the cloak, our Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be on him, is feeling sick. So he goes to the home of, he goes to the home of Lady Fatima. May Allah be pleased with her. And he goes to sleep. Now again, this is just interesting to think about because I think about when I was a kid, if my dad was sleeping in his room, and especially if my dad was sick and tired, okay? If that was the case, what would happen? When I would come home, my mom would say, chup cha, shh. Your dad's sleeping. Don't wake him up. He's tired. And not only is he tired, he's sick. Don't make any noise. Come on. But what happens? Rasulullah is sleeping in the bed. His grandchildren come home. They say, oh my goodness, our grandfather, Rasulullah, is here. He's sleeping. They get excited. And they go to their mom and say, Mom, can I go sleep with him? Now think about this for a moment. There's two key things to remember. Number one is, in order for these children to have this disposition to say, I want to sleep in the same bed first, right? Because first, like the fact is that the children must have had such a strong relationship with their grandfather, such that they actually wanted to sleep in the same bed. And number two, they had the audacity, they had the feeling that, no, you know what? I could actually go and sleep with him and he's not going to get angry at me. He's not going to get sad at me. Right, so one of the things that we learn through this is the prophetic tradition of loving our children. And of course, this was during a time when, in the culture, it was like not acceptable, right? It was not like socially acceptable for like men to show this type of emotion with their children. Now, when we look at the literature, there's a family therapist named Gary Chapman who wrote a book called The 5 Love Languages that ended up, mashallah, becoming a New York Times bestseller. And across the board, this book represents a case study on love. That is, how do we love? Okay? In it, Dr. Chapman basically says that there are 5 different love languages. Okay, now imagine what's a language. If I'm speaking English, you will only understand me if you also speak the same language. If I'm speaking Urdu and you don't speak Urdu, you won't understand what I'm saying. So similarly, there's 5 different love languages. If we speak in that language and that person can hear it, then it means that the love is actually received. But if the person doesn't speak that language, then sometimes there's a problem. So he says there's 5. There's acts of service. Okay, acts of service is, for example, my father, the way he shows love is he will, for example, give my car an oil change. Okay, he'll say, I know my son is busy, I'm going to go take his car, give it an oil change. Or my mom, for example, she would, for example, when we'd eat for dinner, she would take the salan or whatever the food was, and she'd spoon it into my dad's plate, because that kind of act of service was a way that he likes to be loved and shows his love. The second is what's called words of affirmation. Words of affirmation is basically a compliment, right? Saying, oh wow, mashallah, you did a good job. Oh mashallah, this was great, good job. The third is gift giving. Gift giving is not necessarily something around money or something like this. It's just a simple act of saying, I remembered you. I know that mashallah, you love mango so much. So when I went to the store, I saw that there was a mango curry and I brought that for you, or something like this. Because I found out this afternoon that mashallah, our imam loves mango chicken. So if anyone wants to, try to, build a good relationship with him, mango chicken, inshallah. Okay? So I talked about acts of service, gift giving, acts of service, gift giving, words of affirmation. The fourth is what's called quality time, and we'll be talking about that in a moment. And the fifth is what is called acts of service, So there's acts of service, words of affirmation, quality time, gift giving, and physical touch. Okay? Physical touch is not something about intimacy or anything like this. It's just simply like with our children, for example, holding them or holding their hands or putting them in our lap. And the same might be true with our spouse. Now, this is the key thing to remember. Okay? I, for example, am a words of affirmation person, meaning for my spouse or for my father or for my children, the way that I express my love is often through a compliment. So I'll go to my father and say, oh my gosh, Daddy, mashallah, you did such a good job. But my father is an acts of service person. So the way that he wants to be loved is through me doing acts of service for him. And similarly, the way that my dad loves me is through doing acts of service, so this creates a disconnect. In our childhood, for example, my dad would express his love to me by doing things for me. But what I wanted him, the way that I wanted to be loved was through words of affirmation. I wanted my dad to compliment me. I wanted my father to say, Amin, you're doing a good job. Amin, mashallah, you're doing so good in school. Oh wow, Amin, you got an A on your exam. That's what I needed from my dad based off of who I am. But my dad would love me through acts of service. So my entire childhood, I was tricked into thinking my dad didn't love me. He did love me, but he was just communicating it in a different language. So what does this mean? This means we must express our love in the way that our family wants to receive their love. If my spouse, for example, what she requires is quality time, I have to give her quality time so that way she feels loved. If my child needs physical touch, I need to give them physical touch so that way they feel loved. If I give them compliments, they'll think to themselves, man, this guy doesn't love me. Because they need that love in that specific language. So I just want to make sure that this made sense, okay? Each one of us has a predominant love language. And we must love the way that people want to be loved. Does this make sense? And P.S., so the way that we can know, so like what is my love language? Generally speaking, the way that you normally show your love, that's the way that you like to receive your love. Okay? So anyways, this is around love. Okay? So I first talked about this idea of intention or niyyah The second thing I talked about was love, and that this love is incredibly important for our families, and especially for our children in terms of their development. The third thing relates to quality time. And this is specific to, mashallah, like I'm not worried about, generally speaking, our mothers in our community spending quality time with kids. But sometimes in our communities, there's this feeling where fathers don't feel like it may be important, or perhaps, because of the various priorities we have in our life, sometimes we forget this to be a priority. But the fact of the matter is, quality time, especially between fathers and children, is exceptionally important. And again, I relayed some of the traditions from our Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be on him, on the way that he interacted with his own children and his own grandchildren. And we remember to ourselves that our Holy Prophet, if we think ourselves to be busy, our Holy Prophet, mashallah, he was the chief jurist, he was the commander-in-chief, he was the messenger of God, yet he still was able to spend time with his children, so much so that he was able to cultivate this relationship. So tactically speaking, how do we do it? It's called scaffolds, okay? Scaffolds is basically like a rule, right? So as fathers, one thing that we can do is create basically a rule around our interaction with our kids. So one scaffold might be, every night I'm going to give the child a bath. Or every night before the child goes to sleep, I will read him or her a book. Or for example, every Saturday we're going to go to the park or we're going to do something. These types of rules or these types of scaffolds are one of the ways that traditionally fathers can ensure that this quality of time actually ends up happening. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, mashallah, I know that it's like 9 o'clock and it's getting late. And I see like some of the eyes kind of like drooping, so I'll try to be quick. But alhamdulillah, like this, what I'm trying to convey here is to be as practical as I can, such that when we go home, we can use some of these efforts, because these are all things that we can do immediately. Okay? So the first thing I talked about was intention. The second thing I talked about was love. The third thing I talked about was quality time. And the fourth thing I want to talk about. There was an ancient Chinese military strategist named Sun Tzu. Okay? And by the way, you're like, man, this is a conversation about family. This guy's talking about a military strategist. Okay? But we know that with respect to family, sometimes things aren't always, like doves and roses and like daffodils. Sometimes there's challenges, right? So Sun Tzu wrote a very popular book that many people may have heard of today that's called The Art of War. And in it, they provide kind of doctrine around what are the strategies for war. And one of the most popular strategies is to know your enemy is to know yourself. Right? To know your enemy is to know yourself. So what does this mean? This of course means that husbands must really thoroughly understand their wives. No, I'm totally kidding. Astaghfirullah. Come on, that was a joke, you guys. Come on, that was a good one too. You guys can laugh. Alright, it's a tough crowd. No, but who is our open enemy? Who is our open enemy? Of course, our open enemy is shaitan. Right? Shaitan says in the Quran that he will come from the front, from the back, from the left to the right. Right? From every side. And of course, we know that marriage, right? Marriage, this is half of faith. This is one of the important sunnahs of our Holy Prophet, because marriage, family, is the building block of our entire civilization. Right? When we talked about foundation, we said marriage is the foundation of where we build. And so if marriage can be broken, if marriage can have cracks in it, if shaitan can help create issues in it, he realizes how big an impact that may have on our families, on our abilities, on our deen, on our dunya, so on and so forth. So, one of the key things that we must do is actually diagnose this. When we get into fights, for example, and we have issues that occur, one of the things that we must do is actually remember this and diagnose it. And allow the switch to kind of go on in my head to say, maybe this is some waswasa that's happening. This thing I'm thinking about, this thing that's coming into my head about my spouse or my child or something like this, could this actually be shaitan kind of whispering things to me, trying to really get me? Now I'll share a personal example. I told you about Sana, my wife. For me, the reason why I always remember this idea of shaitan was because of how my relationship started with my wife. I decided that I wanted to go to San Antonio and surprise my fiancée at that time with a gift. Right? I was going to propose her with marriage, and I had talked to her parents beforehand, but I thought, let me do something nice. But on the way to the airport to fly from Minneapolis to San Antonio, where she lived, we got a call from the doctor. And the doctor said that my mom had been diagnosed with cancer. That it was like a terrible form of cancer. And now I started thinking to myself, oh my goodness, here I am leaving Minnesota, leaving my family to go, engage in this relationship, to start this marriage. And I started feeling so uneasy, so anxious, so concerned, longest flight of my life. And when I landed in San Antonio, I needed to take a shuttle to get to the rental car company, because oftentimes when you need to rent a car, it's not at the airport, you take the shuttle to get there. So when I was on the shuttle, it was just me and the driver looked at me and he said, "What are you doing here in San Antonio?" And I said, "I'm here to propose to my wife." And the guy said, "Oh man, amazing." I said, "Okay." He said, "You know who loves marriage?" I said, "No, who loves marriage?" He said, "God, our Lord loves marriage." I said, "Oh, okay, alhamdulillah, that's good." And then he said, "Do you know who hates marriage?" I said, "No, who hates marriage?" He says, "Satan. Satan hates marriage. He's going to try to mess you up. You've got to be strong." And I said, "Okay, wow, mashallah, this is interesting that you're telling me this." And he started going on. He said, 6 years ago I was diagnosed with cancer, and I, didn't know what to do, but I believed and I had faith, and, it happened through my spouse. I gained what I needed." And so anyways, this moment, as I reflect on it, just from my own personal life, and I share it just as for me, this is for me one of the reminders, and perhaps a reminder for all of us, that marriage is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. This is the bedrock of the entire existence of our lives. And if this institution has cracks in it, if shaitan is able to break it, so much of our life ends up falling apart. And so one of the first things that we must do, right, is to diagnose when, for example, there's an issue happening in our marriage or in our family, we diagnose it and say, look, this is because of shaitan. And so, honestly, there's an organization called Alcoholics Anonymous, and they say the first step is to kind of admit that there is a problem. The first step is to have the light switch go off and say, I know what's happening here. Similarly, with respect to our families, the first step is to have the light switch go off and say, this is shaitan who's trying to mess us up. Right? To diagnose that problem. And then the second piece that we know from our tradition is how do we deal with shaitan? Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, He says, look, we are going to make mistakes. Shaitan is going to mess us up, but He's given us one thing. He's given us the opportunity to ask Him for forgiveness. We have the opportunity to go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we make mistakes, we can go to Allah and Allah will forgive us, inshallah. There's no sin He will not forgive, so long as we do it with authenticity and honesty and things like this. Similarly, with respect to our relationship with our spouse, one of the things that we must remember to do is to be forgiven. Right? To be forgiven. The way that we are able to overcome the waswasa of shaitan, this kind of this evil force that is out to get us, is to be able to forgive our spouse abundantly and openly and quickly. This is the weapon that we can use against shaitan, forgiveness. And of course we know our Holy Prophet, mashallah, what a manifestation of forgiveness. Right? Like in the story of Taif, where he goes there to propagate religion, where he finds that, perhaps there's some people who are willing to accept Islam, but when he goes there, they leave him bloody and battered and bruised. And at that time, when he has an opportunity to take retribution for them, he says, "No, Ya Allah, forgive them." Right? You think about, when the Holy Prophet for 10 years persecuted in Makkah, where his wife, Lady Khadija, dies under poverty. When they finally go back to Makkah and they're able to conquer it, and those same individuals that led to the death of his uncle, of his wife, he has the opportunity to take vengeance if he wants to. No, he doesn't. He forgives them. Right? This forgiveness is an incredibly powerful tool that we can use to counter these issues that are presented by Shaitan. So I want to summarize very quickly. The single most important variable that will impact our children is the quality of the relationship that we have with them. This is, in terms of like the research, this is like mutawatir. There's so many pieces of research that talk about this. Parents played the single most important role in the upbringing of our children. So as we think about it, what are some of the practical strategies that we can use as parents? The first is to maintain our intention, our niyyah, by doing some of the things that we mentioned, like performing salah together, by making dua in a thoughtful manner, by also engaging in communication around our long-term objectives with our family. The second thing that we talked about was love. This idea of ensuring that we are loving our family, especially our kids and our spouse, and loving them the way that they need to be loved. The third thing that we talked about was quality time, specifically on the point of fathers. And the fourth thing that we talked about was forgiveness. Forgiveness being one of the ways in which we can counter any of the challenges that Shaitan presents us. Now, I mentioned in the Jummah khutbah, and I'll just end on this note. Yes, the Muslim community is going through challenging times right now. Yes, there is a lot of negative rhetoric that is existent in our communities and our world. But we will, inshallah, overcome this. And the way that we overcome this change, it starts at home. Please, inshallah, join me in prayer. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Ya Allah, give me the best of this world and the best of the hereafter, and save us from any torment of the hellfire. رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. Ya Allah, just as my parents took care of me when I was a baby, Ya Allah, please take care of them as they reach old age. رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي. Ya Allah, allow me to establish my prayer along with my progeny. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Now, as we finish, alhamdulillah, we actually have done quite a bit of research. Perhaps for 15 minutes, if there are any questions that community members might have, that this might be a good venue for, I'll do my best to field them. MashaAllah, not all at once. I can only answer one question at a time. Yeah, Sheikh. Yeah, so one of the questions is, with respect to our teenagers, what can we do for them? And Sheikh asked, are we going to come up with any work for them? Inshallah, inshallah. I want to share one thing, right? Today we talked a lot about parenting. And especially for children, 9 and younger, parents play a huge role. In the Jummah khutbah today, I talked about how during those first 9 years, this is when we're kind of establishing our roots. And once we establish those roots, that tree generally doesn't move a great deal. But oftentimes we see the big challenges happening in middle school, in high school. So what can we as parents do to help preserve our children during this time? And really there's 2 key things that we know. The first key thing that we know is actually their friends. To the degree that our children are able to select and we're able to help our children develop friendships with good people, the importance of parents, very important as a child. And by the way, it's not like parents are no longer involved in middle school and high school, they're still involved. But at that point, friends becomes critical, right? And even in our tradition, we think about the whole idea of suhbah and companionship and who our children are around. Now, by the way, one of the key things to remember is this, okay? If someone were to come up with a list of what are the characteristics they want to look for in a spouse, mashallah, I created an Excel spreadsheet so I can tell you, right? So it's like, we're looking for someone who's generous, we're looking for someone who's trustworthy, we're looking for somebody who has maturity, we have someone who has responsibility, decision-making, so on and so forth. Also, of course, faith, right? God consciousness. Now, say, for example, there's a friend who has none of these characteristics and only has one. Is that person going to be a good spouse? Probably not, right? But if someone has all of the characteristics and they're missing one, could that person still perhaps be a good friend or something like this? But the only reason why I say that is because as we think about our friends, right? The decision we make around who our friends are, it's critical. Super important. That's just one of the single most important decisions our youth can make. Because it influences your academic success, it influences your spiritual success, it influences your physical success, right, with your body. And so we have to be thoughtful. In the same way that we think like, oh man, it's important to pick a spouse, we should espouse the same level of importance in picking a friend. For example, Imam Ali says, 2 friends are a single soul in 2 bodies. Right, so like, for example, we think of a spouse being a soulmate, but he's saying, no, in fact, our friend is like a soulmate. It's that important. Now, one of the things that I just want to share is when I was a child, sometimes I had friends that didn't have any of the characteristics. They weren't honest, they weren't trustworthy, they weren't reliable, they weren't responsible, but they were Muslim. And the reason why I share that with you is sometimes we as youth or as individuals, we have this feeling around, oh, well, perhaps if my non-Muslim friends are, for example, going to the dance, or if my non-Muslim friends are, have a significant other or something like this, my non-Muslim friends can do that, but we Muslims, we don't do that. But when there's a Muslim, for example, in your friend circle who starts doing these things, it can be very troubling. It can be very challenging. It can have a very detrimental impact. So we must be very vigilant, very thoughtful about who our friends are, and our friends must have all of the characteristics, right? We should have as many of the characteristics as possible. If they only have one, but they're lacking on all of these, we have to be thoughtful around whether we want to introduce that person in my close circle of friends. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Yeah? The second thing for mom and dad, your own family has a culture, and your culture comes through storytelling. I use stories. Why? Because stories are memorable, right? And even as we think about the seerah of our Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be on him, this is a story. As a family, you have your own story. How did you come to America? What were the challenges that you had? What about your grandparents? So on and so forth. For people in middle school, one of the powerful tools that we know is for parents to share these stories about who you are, who your family is, what are the values that you have, and share that with your children. This is a powerful tool that we have that oftentimes we forget about. Of course, not just our own family story, but we can share the story of our Holy Prophet, so on and so forth. Any other questions? Yes, Bismillah.
Thank you very much. We have done a lot of research on this subject. It is very complicated and very important part of it. And psychologically, you have gone very deep and you have analyzed very nicely. I think it is your PhD program or something like that.
Jazakallah khair. Actually, it's my wife's. My wife is the one who, so mashallah, my wife is the one who does all the research, and mashallah, I do all the talking.
So my suggestion is, if you take up this the different stages of the childhood. You mean from the childhood, from the age of say 1 year, 2 years, so up to the when you finish the primary school or something like that. And from there, how to behave like that and what is their psychology and
Yes.
how to deal with them.
Yes.
From there, from primary to middle school, their behavior will be different, I don't know. So you are the scholar, you must have. And then from there, the adulthood, I mean, the high school period.
Mashallah, mashallah.
So these compartments
Yes.
study to do.
Yes.
And it will be very good for the parent to
Yes.
analyze and to talk to their children according to their age.
Mashallah.
Whatever you talk to 2 years old,
Yes.
you cannot talk to 10 years old.
Absolutely.
And 10 years old, you cannot talk to 18 years old.
So the brother, mashallah, has so much wisdom, mashallah. So he said, look, it's important that we think about parenting with respect to age group. And in fact, in our religious tradition, this tradition is attributed to our Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. It's also attributed to a couple of other people. But he talks about raising children into 3 groups. He says, for the first 7 years, treat your child like a king. Like a king, in terms of like loving them, adoring them, putting them on a pedestal. And also, you know, there's, as this tradition is quite robust because many people decipher a lot of wisdom from this. He says, for the first 7 years, treat your child like a king. The next 7 years, treat your child like a slave. And the next 7 years, treat your child like an advisor. And there's a lot, mashallah, there's a lot that we can decipher from this. And this is very much in line, mashallah, with the wisdom that you two are sharing to say, look, it is important as we think about the age groups, because absolutely there's a piece around the age groups. I will admit that for me, our limitation is that most of our research is on the early childhood component of 9 and younger. And so today, mashallah, I've tried to share as much about that because this is the area where we are knowledgeable. With respect to the other age groups, alhamdulillah, we've read a little bit, but this is not an area where we have expertise. But we know that there absolutely are differences with respect to how we parent for these different age groups.
Yeah, we will suggest to the other group, those who are in that research, suggest that whatever you have done already, then next let them take up and then do research on that.
Inshallah, 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 it's a journey and inshallah we'll get there.
It is not possible for one person to do all the research at the very time. Our life.
Allahu Alam, yeah, absolutely. I think there's absolutely opportunity. Thank you for sharing this. Any other last questions? Maybe one from the ladies' side if there's a question.
I came a little bit late, but what is on the back? Like, is it any kids program or online program?
Yes.
that you can join?
So I'll explain it. So we created Noor Kids about 6 years ago, and the goal is to figure out how do we raise confident Muslim children. So we did a host of research and we turned it into this children's educational program. The way it works is that every month families receive a new children's book delivered directly to their home. Now there's 3 key content areas. You'll notice some of our books are green, some are blue, some are yellow. The blue books are all around character or akhlaq. The green books are all around belief or aqidah. And the yellow books are all around citizenship, like haqqun nas, like our responsibility to the environment around us. Things like standing up against injustice or caring about animals, environment, so on and so forth. Now, the way it works is every month children get a new book in the mail based off of this, and we use a lot of these ideas like critical thinking and role models and parents, and we embed it into the stories. In addition to the children's books, and I didn't mention this, but you all will receive an email about this, every Thursday night at 7:30 p.m., we do something called a kids khutbah. So for example, today you saw that we did this children's program. Every Thursday online, live, we do a kids khutbah. And mashallah, we have like 500 to 700 children from all around the world who join. And as members, you'll have the opportunity to join as well. And so it's an online live event in which we, because if you imagine what would be a khutbah for kids, it would have stories, it'd have activities, there'd be some funny dad jokes and things like this, and this is what we try to do. Now we have, mashallah, this is all we have left, so we have about 8 of them left. If you want to buy it, a 4-month membership, it's $7.99 a month for 4 months, so the total is $31.99. A 12-month membership means you get a new book every month for 12 months, $6.99 per month for 12 months, so the total is about $83. Now today, if you do decide to do this, you'll actually get a 4-book set here for free as a gift. So in addition to the next 4 months, or in addition to the next 12 months, you'll get these 4 books for free as a gift. Now the way to do this, if you're interested in doing it, is to pick up your phone, go onto our website, but it's a special URL because it's a special deal that we're doing here. It's noorkids.com, NOORKIDS.com/ICNA. ICNA. Now, by the way, I do want to mention one thing. I talked about the importance of parents, we talked about the importance of children. One of the other things that's important is called a community of practice. A community of practice is the environment within which children grow up, right? So sometimes we can think about it as our community, right? Or it could be, for example, including if they go to karate lesson, you know, what it's like in their karate class, or where they go to school, or who comes over on Friday night, if we have dinner parties, who comes over, so on and so forth. This is their community of practice, okay? Now, that is of course important. And they say it takes a village to raise a child. This is basically the village that raises the child. And that's why, for example, becoming a part of a masjid, and having a relationship with it, so that the children can have friends and feel like, oh man, this is my community, it's a very big deal. Now, you'll notice the URL that I said was noorkids.com/ICNA, because alhamdulillah, we also go to a lot of these events, like for example, there's one ICNA, there's ISNA, there's all these ones. For families that have never been to something like this before, you know, I do encourage you to check it out, because it's a powerful experience when a child from a place like Binghamton, or Binghamton, okay, stuff a lot of you, you guys have to forgive me, man. How could I do this? When someone from upstate New York, okay, you see what I did there? In a community that, mashallah, is a tightly knit community, goes to a place like this and sees 20,000 Muslims from all around the world. It's almost similar to like when we go for Umrah and we see Muslims from all around the world, and it's such a powerful experience. And this is also a powerful experience. Anyways, I just thought about that because this URL is what we do at the ICNA convention. So anyways, the URL is noorkids.com/ICNA. Any other questions? Alhamdulillah. So thank you so much for welcoming me into the community. Tomorrow we're doing a teacher training for some of the people in the full-time and weekend Islamic school. And then on Sunday, inshallah, we're going to be doing some programs at the Sunday school. So if you're involved in any of those activities, inshallah, we'll see you again this weekend. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Once again, everyone can please join me in thanking Brother Amin, inshallah. Brother Amin, I won't hold it against you. Last week, actually, I got 3 different phone calls. There was a mosque attacked in Birmingham. Are you guys okay? So not everyone knows about Binghamton, so I won't hold it against you, inshallah. But nonetheless, I thank you so much for coming by. A lot of our community members really benefited from your words and your advice. I know the kids absolutely had a blast and a wonderful time earlier today. And so from the bottom of my heart, I really thank you for coming and taking time out of your busy schedule. Inshallah, we'll have Salatul Isha in about 3 minutes. So we'll have the Adhan and we'll have Salatul Isha. Brother Amin will be here for about 10-15 minutes after Salah, just to talk to you if you have any private questions. But he does have another engagement right after Salah. So please make sure you keep your conversation as short as possible, inshallah. So with that, inshallah, we'll have Adhan and Salatul Isha.